I'm Daniel Dove, and I'm an artist, and I'm also a professor at Cal State University, Long Beach. When it comes to the Gottlieb, I think the thing that pulls the viewer in is the feeling of the difference between the two layers. And so one senses that there's something that is more like an atmosphere that is sitting behind something else that might be like a set of symbols. And I think that there is a temptation to try to read the symbols and to figure out what they represent, almost like they're hieroglyphics. Interestingly enough, the painting suggests that these symbols can be decoded straightforwardly, but almost every symbol has something that confounds straightforward reading. So there might be something like a human form that seems to have a head and a torso and arms, but at the base there's something that almost looks like a pot that a plant would grow out of. So in that sense, there is, I think, an intentional attempt to pull viewers in with seeming legibility, but then also a resistance to the painting actually becoming purely legible. And this, I think, functions as a kind of, in a good way, a kind of visual trap. Because if one can read the painting easily, then one might be able to feel like they understand what's happening, and then they exit the experience of the painting. I think that the palette in the painting contributes to the image in the sense that it aids the spatial arrangement. One of the things about color is that if color is very pure or saturated, it tends to advance in space, meaning that if you have a red that's very, very red, then it will tend to come forward. Whereas a red that is what we call desaturated, that tends to sit back in space. So I see the palette as having a lot to do with creating this sense of spatial depth in the painting. When one is looking at a work of art, particularly as an artist, there's always a kind of guesswork involved in terms of what the piece might mean. And actually, I agree with Gottlieb in that meaning is not the final destination. Or maybe another way of putting it is trying to understand what Gottlieb's intentions were is not the final destination. It's more about whether or not one has one's own experience of the piece in a way that seems to add something to one's experience of art or wisdom about the world or emotional depth and capacity.